Thank you very much for inviting me. I must confess I had not heard of your company before. But when I got the invitation and when my friend Harish Rao requested me, I thought I would come. Now that I'm here, I'm very happy to see a few things, which I'll come to in a minute. But first, let me say that I apologize. I was running a bit late, but I have time, so I can stay till you have time. Uh, I must also say I'm glad that one of the brothers and I are the only people who have matching colors. I feel a bit like I'm too casually dressed compared to the rest of you. But I have three events to go to, one after the other, so I had to find a neutral ground of how to dress. Um, I don't know, I was just first taking a trip down memory lane. Back in the day when I lived for 20 years in the US, I was an expatriate for almost 30 years in various places. And I remember the nascent stages of when we were trying to do high-end financial modeling, derivative risk management, securitization, and all these things from Mumbai for Hong Kong, for Tokyo, for New York, for London. And I thought it was pioneering at the time. But anyway, that was 15, 20 years ago. I'm glad to see that we have now, found companies like Charisma that are doing high-end accounting and finance work for highly regulated industries like insurance and pensions and so forth, which is really very encouraging to me as the IT minister for the state. I say it's encouraging because I think though many people have a view of what our path to growth should be, realistically it seems to me whatever the accelerant for India's growth in the next few years, and there are many variables that could contribute to that, but at the core of it is that we have a lot of young people and we have a very big workforce relative to the rest of the world. And what China was able to do over 3 decades of becoming a manufacturing powerhouse, I think we have the chance to do in terms of being a human talent capital, both onshore and offshore. And that's really the only path I can see where we can benefit from the global macro and geopolitical trends, which are moving away from a 30-year one-directional flow of manufacturing work into China and a reverse directional flow of foreign exchange reserves being invested by China into trillions of dollars of euro and dollar bonds. And so all of that is being shaken up, as we can tell. Those of you who follow the bond market like me, the last few days have been pretty spectacularly different. Right? So I think we are seeing a new regime, a new global equilibrium, and certainly India has a big role to play. As with all such waves, places like Tamil Nadu should and will benefit disproportionately because we have invested heavily in human talent and education going back 100 plus years. And so in Tamil Nadu today, our enrollment ratio into tertiary education is about 52%, which is double the national average and higher than the next state by at least 10 or 15 points, if not 20 points. So I think we are well poised. But the key then is not just how many IIT and NIT graduates we can get out, but how we can get the boys from North Madras to be able to do relatively global work, because there's no way the domestic demand is going to be big enough for us to really see that acceleration. That has been the focus of our government, of my chief minister from the day we came to office. We have put a lot of effort into skilling, into ramping up the school education. In fact, because of COVID, we had to take a detour and do a bunch of remedial education. I think we did more than most states, at least in an organized way. And let's even say we have dug ourselves out of the hole somewhat, we still have to have these kinds of initiatives. And so I think, in the end, the world is quite an unfair place in every way. That's what free markets do. They create winners and they create, also rans. But I think what we have prided ourselves in our politics in the Dravidian uh, ethos is to try and be as humane and as counterbalancing to the natural forces of leveling out or separation or hierarchy building. And I think education is the surest means, but the quality varies. And then skilling may be something quite different than education. But when I think about these boys and your stats about how almost none of them could clear, it's because they don't have context, right? The minute they come and be, and I was struck that even at places like MIT and Harvard, banks and big insurance companies and big corporates and big consulting companies try to use the internship program as a way of doing 80 or 90% of their recruiting and only do the remaining in straight out testing and interviews and stuff like that. Of course, they screen for the internship also. But this notion that context only comes based on, experience, exposure, connectivity to people who have been there, done that, I think is vital. And so I'm very impressed and I congratulate you for realizing that. It's very hard to compete if you've never been given exposure and you don't understand what the playing field is like. So I congratulate you and applaud your initiative, and more than that, I congratulate you for actually extending the work. And I hope you're very successful. And I know the government is trying many similar attempts. So if there's anything we can do also to help you scale, we'll do that. Some of it is technology based, but it has to start with the right intent. In my constituency, as much as I go to graduation ceremonies where they give out masters and PhDs, I also go to training institutes where they give out diplomas for people who've learned electrical and HVAC and sound engineering and stuff like that, because we need people of all levels of skill in all domains. So I'm happy to see the sophistication with which this operation works. I know that Australia has very high standards and regulations, so you must be doing something right. Congratulations and best wishes for a great future. Again, I applaud your CSR work, and I wish you all the best. And may many more of your students end up here and in other such companies, and through them, A, transform their lives and their families' lives, and B, let the expectation be there for the rest of their communities that this is possible, that you're not perpetually doomed to being, in this underclass without access to opportunity. Thank you very much for inviting me.